Old man leaves $1 tip every day. Then the waitress finds a note on the table. Asterisk. The bell above the door of Rosie's Diner chimed at exactly 7:30 a.m. every morning, announcing the arrival of Harold Peterson, an 82-year-old man who had become as much a part of the restaurant's routine as the coffee brewing and the grill heating up. Harold always chose the same corner booth, always ordered the same breakfast, 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, and black coffee, and always left exactly $1 as a tip. Sarah Martinez, a 24-year-old single mother working double shifts to support her 6-year-old daughter Emma, had been serving Harold for 8 months. While other waitresses complained about his meager tips, Sarah had grown fond of the quiet old man who spoke little but always said please and thank you with genuine politeness. She noticed things about Harold that others missed: how his hands shook slightly when he lifted his coffee cup, how he always sat facing the door as if he was waiting for someone, and how he would sometimes stare out the window with an expression of profound loneliness. "That old cheapskate again," muttered Brenda, another waitress, as Harold settled into his usual booth. $1 tip on a $7 breakfast. "I don't know why you're always so nice to him, Sarah." Sarah shrugged as she poured Harold's coffee. "Maybe he doesn't have much money. Besides, he's never rude or demanding. That's worth something." What Sarah didn't know was that Harold had been watching her too. He had noticed how she worked extra shifts, how she sometimes looked exhausted, but never let it affect her service, and how she always had a kind word for every customer, no matter how difficult they might be. He had overheard her phone conversations with her babysitter, apologizing for being late and promising to pick up Emma as soon as possible. Harold Peterson wasn't poor. In fact, he was quite wealthy, having spent 40 years building a successful accounting firm before retiring. But he had learned long ago that money couldn't buy the things that mattered most: love, companionship, and purpose. His wife of 53 years had passed away 2 years earlier, and his only son lived across the country, too busy with his own life to visit more than once a year. The daily visits to Rosie's Diner had become Harold's anchor to the world, his one meaningful human interaction in days that otherwise stretched endlessly and emptily. He left small tips, not because he was cheap, but because he was testing something, testing whether kindness could exist without the expectation of reward, whether someone could see past the surface to the person underneath. What Harold was planning would change Sarah's life forever, but first he needed to be sure she was the right person. The note he had been carrying in his pocket for weeks was about to reveal a secret that would transform both their lives in ways neither could have imagined. As the weeks passed, Harold began to observe Sarah more carefully, noting the small details that revealed her character. He saw how she always refilled his coffee without being asked, how she remembered that he preferred his eggs cooked a little longer than most people, and how she never showed impatience when he took his time deciding what to order, even though he always ordered the same thing. More importantly, Harold witnessed Sarah's interactions with other customers. He watched her comfort a crying child while the mother searched for her wallet, saw her give free coffee to a homeless man when she thought no one was looking, and observed her staying late to help an elderly woman who had fallen in the parking lot. She has a good heart, Harold thought to himself as he watched Sarah work. She reminds me of my Eleanor. Eleanor Peterson had been Harold's wife, best friend, and business partner for over 5 decades. She had possessed the same natural compassion that Harold recognized in Sarah, the same ability to see the best in people and respond with kindness even when it wasn't returned. That one particularly busy morning, Harold overheard Sarah on the phone during her break speaking to her daughter's school. Emma had been sent home with a fever, and Sarah was frantically trying to arrange childcare so she wouldn't have to leave work and lose a day's pay. "I understand she needs to be picked up," Sarah said into the phone, her voice strained with worry. "But I can't leave right now. I'm the only waitress on duty, and I can't afford to lose this job. Can you please just give me 2 more hours?" Harold watched Sarah hang up the phone and wipe tears from her eyes before returning to work with a smile plastered on her face, serving customers as if nothing was wrong. That's when Harold made his decision. After finishing his breakfast, Harold approached the counter where Sarah was working. "Miss Sarah," he said quietly, "I couldn't help but overhear your phone call. Your daughter is sick?" Sarah looked surprised that Harold had spoken to her beyond their usual pleasantries. "Yes, sir. She has a fever, and the school needs someone to pick her up. But I can't leave work right now." Harold nodded thoughtfully. "I have a car, and I have time. Would you like me to pick up your daughter and bring her here? I know it's unusual, but I'm a grandfather myself, and I understand how worried you must be." Sarah stared at Harold in amazement. In 8 months of serving him, this was the longest conversation they had ever had, and he was offering to help her in a way that no one else ever had. "Mr. Peterson, I couldn't ask you to do that. You don't even know me, and Emma is my responsibility." Harold smiled gently. "You've been taking care of me for months, making sure my coffee is always hot and my breakfast is always perfect. Let me return the favor." After some hesitation and a quick call to the school to add Harold to the approved pickup list, Sarah accepted his offer. Harold drove to Emma's school, introduced himself to the nurse as Sarah's friend, and gently helped the feverish 6-year-old into his car. "Are you my mom's friend?" Emma asked as Harold drove carefully toward the diner. "I hope so," Harold replied. "Your mother is a very special person. She works very hard to take care of you." When Harold arrived at the diner with Emma, Sarah burst into tears of gratitude. She settled her daughter in a quiet booth with some coloring books and soup, checking on her between customers. That day, Harold left his usual $1 tip, but he also left something else, a small note tucked under his coffee cup. Sarah didn't notice the note until she was clearing Harold's table after he had left. It was written on a piece of paper from a small notebook, in Harold's careful handwriting. "Dear Sarah, thank you for your kindness to an old man who has forgotten what it feels like to matter to someone. Your compassion reminds me of my late wife, and watching you work has brought light to my days. I hope your daughter feels better soon. Harold Peterson." Sarah read the note 3 times, feeling tears well up in her eyes. She had never realized that her simple acts of service had meant so much to Harold, or that he had been paying such close attention to her life and struggles. That evening, Sarah showed the note to her daughter Emma, who was feeling much better. After a day of rest and her mother's attention, "Mama, is Mr. Harold lonely?" Emma asked with the perceptive innocence of a 6-year-old. "I think he might be, sweetheart," Sarah replied. "He helped us today when we really needed it. Maybe we can find a way to help him too." The next morning, Harold arrived at his usual time, but instead of his typical quiet demeanor, he seemed more animated. When Sarah brought his coffee, she sat down across from him for a moment. "Mr. Peterson, I wanted to thank you again for yesterday. What you did for Emma and me, ... It meant everything." Harold waved off her thanks. "It was my pleasure, Sarah. How is Emma feeling?" "Much better, thank you. She wanted me to give you this." Sarah handed Harold a drawing that Emma had made, a picture of a man and a little girl holding hands, with "Thank you, Mr. Harold," written in crayon at the bottom. Harold's eyes filled with tears as he looked at the drawing. "This is beautiful. Please tell Emma that I'll treasure it always." As their friendship deepened over the following weeks, Harold began to share more about his life. He told Sarah about Eleanor, about the business they had built together, and about the loneliness that had consumed him since her death. "I come here every day because it's the only place where I feel like I still exist," Harold confided. At home, I'm just an old man waiting to die. But here, with you, I remember what it feels like to be human." Sarah was moved by Harold's honesty. "You're not just existing, Mr. Peterson. You're living. And you've made my life better, too. Emma talks about you all the time, and knowing that you care about us makes even the hardest days easier." Harold had been carrying another note in his pocket for weeks, but he hadn't been sure when or how to give it to Sarah. After their conversation, he knew the time had come. "Sarah," he said as he prepared to leave that morning, "I have something for you. But I want you to promise me that you'll read it when you get home tonight, not here at work." He handed her an envelope with her name written on it in his careful script. Sarah could feel that there was more than just a note inside. The envelope was thick and seemed to contain several pieces of paper. "Mr. Peterson, what is this?" "It's something I've been thinking about for a long time," Harold said. "Just promise me you'll read it tonight, and we'll talk tomorrow." That evening, after Emma was asleep, Sarah sat at her small kitchen table and opened Harold's envelope with trembling hands. Inside, she found a handwritten letter along with several official-looking documents that made her gasp in disbelief. The letter read, "Dear Sarah, for 8 months you have shown me kindness without expecting anything in return. You have treated me with dignity and respect, and you have reminded me that there is still goodness in this world. I have been watching you struggle to provide for Emma while working multiple jobs, and I have been amazed by your strength and grace under pressure. I am 82 years old, and I have no family nearby. My wife Eleanor and I were blessed with financial success, but we were never blessed with children of our own. When Eleanor died, I thought my purpose in life was over. But watching you has shown me that I still have something to offer. The ability to help someone who deserves it. Enclosed you will find the deed to a house at 1247 Maple Street. It's a 3-bedroom home in a good neighborhood with excellent schools. The house is paid for, and I am giving it to you and Emma. You will also find a bank account statement showing an education fund I have established for Emma's college expenses. I don't want you to feel obligated to me in any way. This is not charity. It's an investment in the future. You have given me hope and purpose when I had none, and I want to give you and Emma the security and opportunities you deserve. Please don't try to refuse this gift. Eleanor always said that money is only valuable when it's used to help others, and I can think of no better use for our savings than ensuring that you and Emma have a bright future. Got your friend always. Harold Peterson, P.S. The house has a beautiful garden that Eleanor would have loved. I hope Emma will enjoy playing there." Sarah read the letter 4 times before the words fully sank in. Harold was giving her a house, a real house with a yard where Emma could play, in a neighborhood with good schools. The education fund alone was more money than Sarah had ever dreamed of having. She looked at the deed and the bank statements, hardly believing they were real. The house was worth over $200,000, and the education fund contained $50,000. Harold Peterson, the man who left $1 tips, was giving her a fortune. Sarah spent the night alternating between tears of gratitude and disbelief. She called in, sick, to work the next day, the first sick day she had taken in over a year, and drove to the address on the deed. The house was beautiful, a charming 2-story home with a white picket fence, a large front porch, and a backyard that seemed like paradise compared to their cramped apartment. Sarah sat in her car and cried, overwhelmed by Harold's generosity and the thought that Emma would grow up in such a wonderful place. When Harold arrived at the diner the next morning, he found Sarah waiting for him with tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Peterson," she said, "I can't accept this. It's too much. I don't deserve it." Harold smiled gently and guided her to his usual booth. "Sarah, you deserve this and so much more. You've been an angel to me when I needed one most." Please, don't deny me the joy of helping you and Emma." The conversation that followed was emotional and transformative for both Harold and Sarah. Harold explained that he had been planning this gift for months, ever since he realized that Sarah represented everything good about humanity: kindness, resilience, and selfless love. "I've been leaving small tips, not because I'm cheap," Harold confessed, "but because I wanted to see if you would treat me well, regardless of what I could give you. You passed that test every single day." Sarah was overwhelmed by the revelation. "You were testing me?" "Not testing your character," Harold clarified. "I could see your character from the beginning. I was testing whether my instincts about you are correct, whether you are the kind of person who would use this gift wisely and raise Emma to be a good person." Harold went on to explain that he had no other family to leave his money to, and that giving it to Sarah and Emma while he was still alive would allow him to see the joy it brought them. "Eleanor and I always regretted not having children," he said, "but now I feel like I have a daughter and granddaughter. You've given me a family, Sarah, and I want to give you security." Sarah finally accepted Harold's gift, but she insisted, on one condition, that Harold would always be welcome in their new home, that he would join them for dinner every Sunday, and that he would be Emma's honorary grandfather. "I don't want your money to create distance between us," Sarah said. "I want you to be part of our family." Harold agreed, and for the first time in 2 years, he felt like he had a reason to look forward to the future. The move to the new house was a celebration that brought together the entire staff of Rosie's Diner. Even Brenda, who had criticized Harold's small tips, was amazed by his generosity and apologized for her earlier judgments. "I guess you really can't judge a book by its cover," Brenda said to Sarah as they packed up her belongings. "That man has the biggest heart I've ever seen." Emma was thrilled with her new home, especially the backyard where she could play, and the beautiful garden that Harold had mentioned in his letter. She immediately claimed Harold as her grandfather, and he embraced the role with joy. "Grandpa Harold," Emma said on their first Sunday dinner together, "why did you help us so much?" Harold looked at the little girl who had become the light of his life. "Because your mother showed me that kindness is the most important thing in the world, and I wanted to make sure you both knew how special you are." The transformation in Harold was remarkable. He went from a lonely, isolated man to someone with purpose and joy. He helped Emma with her homework, taught her to garden, and shared stories about his late wife Eleanor. "Eleanor would have loved you both so much," Harold told Sarah one evening as they watched Emma play in the backyard. "She always said that the best way to honor someone's memory is to spread the love they gave you to others." 2 years after, Harold's life-changing gift, the Peterson-Martinez family, as they had come to call themselves, had created a beautiful life together. Emma was thriving in her new school, making friends and excelling in her studies. Sarah had been able to reduce her work hours and spend more quality time with her daughter, while also pursuing a nursing degree that Harold had encouraged and financially supported. Harold had found a new lease on life. He volunteered at Emma's school, helped other elderly residents in the neighborhood, and had even started a small scholarship fund for single mothers pursuing education. His days were no longer empty and purposeless. They were filled with love, laughter, and the joy of watching Emma grow up. "You know," Harold said to Sarah one Sunday as they prepared dinner together, "I used to think that my life ended when Eleanor died. But now I realize it just began a new chapter." Sarah smiled, still amazed by how much their lives had changed. "Emma and I are so lucky to have you, Harold. You're not just our benefactor, you're our family." The story of Harold and Sarah had become legendary in their small town. People spoke of it as proof that kindness and generosity still existed in the world, and that sometimes the most profound gifts come from the most unexpected sources. Harold had also reconnected with his son. In California, who was amazed by his father's transformation. "Dad, you sound happier than you have in years," his son said during one of their weekly phone calls. "I am happy," Harold replied. "I found my purpose again. I found a family to love and be loved by." Emma, now 8 years old, had grown into a confident, compassionate child who understood the value of kindness. She often helped Harold with his volunteer work and had started her own small charity project at school, collecting toys for children in need. "Grandpa Harold taught me that when you help people, it makes you happy too," Emma explained to her teacher when asked about her charity work. On the second anniversary of Harold's gift, the three of them visited Eleanor's grave together. Harold had never brought anyone there before, but he wanted to introduce his wife to his new family. "Eleanor," Harold said, placing flowers on her headstone, "I want you to meet Sarah and Emma. They saved me, just like you did all those years ago. They reminded me that love doesn't end when someone dies. It just finds new ways to grow." Emma placed a small drawing on the grave, a picture of 4 people holding hands with "Our Family" written at the bottom. "I drew you too, Grandma Eleanor," she said. "Grandpa Harold says you're watching over us." Sarah wiped tears from her eyes as she watched Harold and Emma together. "Thank you, Eleanor," she whispered. "Thank you for raising such a wonderful man." As they walked back to their car, Harold reflected on the journey that had brought them together. "You know, Sarah, I used to think that $1 tip was insignificant, but it led to the most significant relationship of my later life." "It wasn't about the money," Sarah replied. "It was about the respect and kindness you showed me every day. That's what made me want to take care of you." Harold nodded. "And that's what made me want to take care of you and Emma. Love isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up every day and treating people with dignity." The note that Harold had left on the table that day had been more than just a thank you message. It had been the beginning of a beautiful family story that proved that sometimes the most extraordinary gifts come wrapped in the most ordinary moments. Their story continued to inspire others in their community and beyond, reminding everyone that kindness is never wasted, that generosity comes in many forms, and that family is not always about blood relations. Sometimes it's about the people who choose to love and care for each other. If this incredible story of unexpected generosity and the power of daily kindness has touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel for more amazing true stories that prove love and compassion can transform lives in the most beautiful ways. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to join our community of people who believe in the extraordinary impact of ordinary acts of kindness.